Hello everyone, today we are going to learn about chapter 9, Homeostasis. So this chapter includes 1 hour lecture and 3 hours tutorial. This topic, we have 3 subtopics, which is 9.1 Concept of Homeostasis, 9.2 Negative Feedback Mechanism, and 9.3 Human Homeostatic Organ, Structure and Function of Kidney. But for this part, we are going to look at 9.1 and 9.2. So the learning outcomes for 9.1 to explain the concept of homeostasis and describe the homeostatic control system, and 9.2 to explain the negative feedback mechanism in controlling blood glucose. Before we go any further, we should define what is homeostasis. So homeostasis came from 2 Greek words, homeos meaning sameness, stasis meaning standing. So this will define homeostasis as a process to maintain a stable internal environment, for example, body temperature and blood glucose level in living organism through physiological processes. So when we say physiological processes, of course, it will involve many organs. For example, muscle, brain, kidney, heart, and the nerves. As we already defined the homeostasis as a process to maintain a stable internal environment through physiological processes, we should know that our internal environment fluctuates based on our daily activities. For example, when we skip our meal, our blood glucose level will drop, or when we exercise, our body temperature will rise. So, homeostasis process will cause the body to return to stable or optimal condition. For example, when our body temperature increase above normal body temperature, our body will conduct homeostasis process by producing sweat that will cause our body temperature to reduce and return to normal body temperature. So fluctuations between the fluctuations of this body temperature are considered as normal range. So living organisms have their own desired condition within a narrow limits in order to survive. So living organism needs to maintain this desired condition. So if there are any changes that exceeds this normal range is harmful to living organism. So let's look at this diagram. Our normal range of body temperature is between 36.5 to 38, and if our body temperature drop below this normal temperature, it will cause hypothermia and will cause death. And if it exceeds from this normal range, it will cause hyperthermia and also will cause death. Homeostasis that involve physiological processes will regulate the changes from the set point to restore to the normal condition, and this will control or regulated by negative feedback mechanism. So please remember, all homeostatic control are by negative feedback mechanism. Homeostasis will regulate the changes from the set point that include physical factors and chemical factors. I have one question. What will happen if our body temperature is not regulated by homeostasis? Let's look at this thermometer. Our normal body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. If our body temperature drops, it may lead to death. For example, if someone fell into an icy lake, his or her body temperature will suddenly drop, and if not taken into medical attention as soon as possible, it may lead to death. So other effect of hypothermia, meaning hypothermia is the low body temperature. So this is the effect of hypothermia, or maybe hyperthermia. Okay, higher body temperature. So hypothermia will affect in many ways. Next is homeostatic control mechanism. Homeostatic control mechanism is to maintain a stable or steady state of internal environment. So it involves a regulatory system involving nervous system. So homeostatic control mechanism have three components. First is receptor, second is control center, and the third one is effector. First is the receptor. Receptor is actually the one that detects any changes that occur from the set point, either it is increased from the set point or decreased from the set point. These two types of changes will be detected by the receptor. So receptor, after it detects the changes, it will send message by impulse or hormone message to control center. So the flow of information from receptor to control center is called afferent pathway. The second one is control center. Control center or integrating center receive information from the receptor, and control center will initiate the response to maintain homeostasis to return to set point. So when control center receive the message from the receptor, it will analyze the message and it will determine the suitable response and send the response or message to effector. So message sent from the control center are the corrective message in order to return the changes that occur in the body to the normal set point. The third one, the effector. Effector is any organ or tissue that receive information from the control center and acts to bring about the changes needed to maintain homeostasis. So, corrective action are conducted by the effector in order to restore the changes to normal set point. So flow of information from control center to effector is known as efferent pathway. Next part is feedback mechanism. So in previous slides, we already know that there is negative feedback mechanism controls the homeostasis process. So what is negative feedback? Negative feedback is the one that reduce the original stimulus. For example, in this diagram, if the value increase from the set point, negative feedback will cause the value to decrease. Okay, increase and negative feedback will cause the value to decrease. But if positive feedback occur, positive feedback will enhance the changes from the set point. In this diagram, if the value increase from the set point, positive feedback will cause further increase in the value. So positive feedback is the one that enhance the changes, and negative feedback is the one that reduce from the changes. First, the negative feedback mechanism, which is the mechanism that reduces the intensity of original stimulus. Remember the previous diagram? So it will cause a change in opposite direction to the initial change, for example, regulation of blood glucose level. So if we take sugary food, the blood glucose level will increase from the normal value, and the negative feedback will cause the blood glucose level to decrease back to normal blood glucose level. And if we skip our meal, the blood glucose level will decrease from the normal level, and then our body will regulate the blood glucose level by negative feedback mechanism to restore the blood glucose level to normal glucose. The second one is positive feedback mechanism. So this one is actually the mechanism that increase the intensity of original stimulus. This one is to destabilize. For example, secretion of oxytocin during parturition. So oxytocin will cause the uterus to contract. When uterus contract, it will cause more oxytocin to be secreted. So more oxytocin will cause more uterus contraction, and more uterus contraction will cause more oxytocin to be secreted. So this one is the positive feedback mechanism. Next part is 9.3, human homeostatic organ, structure and function of kidney. So the learning outcome for this subtopic is to describe the structure of nephron, to analyze the processes in urine formation, to describe the counter current multiplier mechanism in urine formation, and to relate the regulation of blood water content with ADH. So part C and D will be covered in tutorial part. First, look at the structure of kidney. So this is the kidney. We have two in our body. First, the location of kidney is at the back of the abdominal cavity. And they exist in pair and bean shape. Blood enter the kidney via renal artery, the red one, and exits via renal vein. And left kidney is slightly higher than the right kidney. After urine are produced, urine are carried by a pair of ureter to the urinary bladder, and urine is stored in the urinary bladder until it is released via urethra. This is the structure of kidney. There are three main regions: cortex, medulla and pelvis. So in the medulla, there are renal pyramids, okay, something like pyramid here, and the tip of each pyramid is renal papilla. This one is to collect the urine. This is structure of nephron. So nephron is the functional unit of kidney. Nephrons can be found in the medulla parts of the kidney, and there are about 1 million nephrons in each human kidney. So, nephrons are microscopic and cannot be seen under naked eyes. So, there are only can be seen under microscope, electron microscope. So each papilla here has several pores, the opening of collecting ducts. So this one is to collect urine towards the ureter. As urine is produced, it flows from the collecting ducts from the opening in papilla into the minor calyx and into major calyx. From major calyx, it will flow into renal pelvis and then into ureter. As I mentioned earlier, nephron is the functional unit of kidney to process the blood, and there are two types of nephron, which is cortical nephron and juxtamedullary nephron. So cortical nephron are about 85% of the nephron and mostly found in the cortex region. And as for juxtamedullary nephron, they have longer loops of Henle. Longer loops of Henle helps in conserving more water in living organism. Cortical nephron mostly located at renal cortex, and juxtamedullary nephron enable mammals to conserve water by producing hyperosmotic urine to body fluids, because longer loop of Henle will reabsorb more water. So you have to remember the parts of nephron. We begin with first part, the glomerulus. So glomerulus is actually the highly coiled blood capillary to filter the substance in the blood plasma. And then the second one is the Bowman's capsule. So Bowman's capsule encloses the glomerulus, where wastes are filtered from the blood. The third one is proximal convoluted tubule. And then the third one is loop of Henle. Fourth, distal convoluted tubule. So distal convoluted tubule are connected to collecting duct, and then urine are collected in the collecting duct, and urine will flow into the urine. As kidney functions in cleaning the blood and adjust its composition, blood will flow into and out of nephron. So from aorta, it will flow in the blood flow into the renal artery, and then to afferent arteriole, into the glomerulus, into the efferent arteriole, and peritubular capillaries and vasa recta, and back to renal vein and return to heart through inferior vena cava. There are blood capillary network surrounds the nephron. First is the glomerulus that is adapted for filtration, and then the second one is peritubular capillary that are interconnected surrounding the renal tubule. So peritubular capillary near to the proximal and distal convoluted tubule are interconnected with each other, and the one that near the loop of Henle is called as vasa recta. Now let's look at the function of nephron. Nephron will filter water and solutes from the blood, and nephron also remove any waste products from the body in the form of urine, and nephron also cause the reabsorption of useful substance into. So in the urine formation, there are three processes involved. First one is the ultrafiltration that occur in the glomerulus, and then the second one, the reabsorption that occur mainly in the proximal convoluted tubule, and the third one is the secretion that occur mainly in the distal convoluted tubule. So this is the diagram that helps you in identifying the three processes in urine formation. The last diagram here shows the substance that are reabsorbed and secreted during the flow of filtrate inside the nephron. Useful substance, for example, sodium chloride, nutrients and water. So unwanted substance to be excreted, for example, excess hydrogen ion and excess potassium ion in our body. So that's all for lecture today. Thank you.